Oh boy. Let me tell you, it doesn't matter how long you've been doing deliveries or how many thousands of deliveries you have under your belt. You can still make mistakes like I made yesterday. I want to tell this story about what went wrong, how it went wrong, and what I did about it, and how I ended up breaking one of my own rules in the process. And I would love to get your guys' perspective in the comment section. All right, before we get too far into this one, I need to give you a little bit of background on my mental state yesterday. I was having an absolutely hellish day. I've said it in previous videos. I often drive to decompress, to relax, to just kind of be with my thoughts, listen to music, and just vibe out. And yesterday was very much one of those days because I needed it. This specific situation happened on Uber Eats, but the app doesn't matter. It just as easily could have been any other app. I went out not really expecting to make a whole ton of money. I didn't have a goal in mind. I just wanted to be alone with my thoughts. So I fired up the apps and figured if something comes my way that's reasonable, I'll do it. So I was waiting around and I got a few bad offers and I finally said, screw it. I'm going to go home. So I turn around and head back on the freeway. And I ended up passing this exit. And right after I passed it, Uber Eats fired up. And it was an order for a certain restaurant in my market. I'm not going to drop dime on them because I'm about to talk mad trash. But we'll come back to that in a minute. So I accept this order. It was like going like 2 or 3 miles for like $10 and change on Uber Eats. So I get off the freeway at the next exit. I flip around and I make my way back to this restaurant. So I get parked and I walk in and I tell them, hey, I'm here to pick up an order for whoever for Uber Eats. And this specific place, there's a bit of a language barrier. So they were like, Uber Eats? I'm like, yep. And I show my phone just to make sure we're on the same page. Not that I was like shoving it in their face, but I did show them. They're like, okay, Uber Eats, got it. And so they hand me this bag. I thank them and I scurry off. Uh, mistakes were made. Mistakes were made. So I get to this customer's house. Well, actually, before that, let me back up just a little bit. There was a pin on this order, which annoyed the hell out of me. I can't stand it when I get orders with pins on them. I get that the pins on Uber help protect the driver, but I don't ever want to see a pin on an order personally, but that's just me. Being is that this order had a pin on it, it, of course, was a hand it to me, and she happened to be waiting outside when I got there. So we exchanged smiles and thank yous, and I got back in the car. I was just about to drive away when she came running back outside. Now, me being hopeful, I was thinking that, sweet, I'm going to get a cash tip, but no, that wasn't the case. She told me that I had picked up the wrong order. And I'm thinking to myself, like, wait a second. Okay, I showed them my phone. They saw the name. They said Uber Eats. I'm like, yep. And I'm like, no, I couldn't have gotten the wrong order. And then she showed me the name on the receipt. And I'm like, shit. Sure enough, I grabbed the wrong order. Now, this was partially my fault, and it was partially the restaurant's fault. They handed me the wrong order, but because of how stressed I was, I didn't think about checking the receipt to verify the name for myself. 4 years, that's the first time I've made that mistake, but I made it. Now, it's worth noting, this person was very reasonable and friendly about it, and that played into me breaking one of my rules that I preach all the time on this channel. I teach that when something goes sideways with an order, after you've marked it complete, which at this point I had, you're done with it and call support. It's not what I did. I took note of the customer's address and I told her to give me 15, 20, 25 minutes. I would go back to the restaurant and get the correct order. She said, okay. And I went about my way. I took the wrong order back to the restaurant with me. And let me tell you, that was not fun explaining why the driver was walking back in with the order, but we got through it. Remember the language barrier? They ended up taking the wrong order for me and running into the back, and some other guy came out and started talking to me. Once again, I had to explain the entire situation all over again. They had asked me to see the order on my phone, but being as that I had marked it complete, I couldn't show them the order. So I ended up explaining the situation all over again. It took a couple of minutes, but they finally understood what the problem was. So he went back into the kitchen and came back out a minute or two later with another bag. So turns out what had happened was the order just never was brought out to the front where the counter is. So they had the order, the correct order the whole time, but they just saw Uber Eats and assumed that it was my order. I've talked about this restaurant a couple of times in previous videos. I've got about a 75% chance of the order actually being there with this specific place. I don't accept orders from this place no matter how much they're paying if I'm more than a couple miles away, because I know that there's a high probability of there being some kind of an issue with the order. But in this specific case, I decided to take the order because it was slow and I needed something to do. This was completely my fault that I didn't take the time to verify the name on the receipt, and that was very much a rookie move on my part, but I guess we all make mistakes. Long story short, I got the correct order, I went back to the customer's house, I gave her the correct order, and she ended up leaving a decent tip in the ab, so it all worked out. But my question for you guys is, one, did I do the right thing by turning around and going and getting the correct order? Because keep in mind, I was just as at fault as the restaurant because I could have looked at the receipt and saw it was the wrong order, but I didn't. My second question is, what would you have done? I knew damn well that had I handled that situation different, I could have called support and ended up with free food for myself, but I'm just not that kind of person. If I was completely blameless, if the restaurant just taped the wrong receipt to the bag, it would have been a different story. It would have been a contact support type of thing. But because I screwed up, I felt it necessary to fix my own mistake. I was very lucky to have a very reasonable customer. However, I will say, in my years of experience, just saying I'm sorry, my apologies, and I will make it right makes people very reasonable very quickly. The vast majority of people are reasonable. You just have to be respectful to them. That situation ended up being the best part of a bad day. So I'm going to wrap it up here. Share your thoughts in the comment section, and if you haven't done so yet, please do consider pressing the like button and subscribing to my channel. My name is Zach. Take care.